Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Wow. Had me fooled. See, I almost stood up here right in the middle of that song.
You should have.
Woo! I know I should have come down and danced with Angie. Woo! Good morning, everyone. I'm Reverend C.C. Coltrane, and welcome to Center for Spiritual Living, Greater Dayton. If you're here for the first time, thank you for sharing your Sunday morning with us, and a special welcome to you. On your bulletin cover, there's a little tear-off strip that you can give us your contact information so that we can keep you apprised of what's happening around here. That we always have lots of special events and extra things that are going on. And if you fill it out and take it over to the Welcome Center at the end of service, then we can put you on our email list. There's also a little email on Wednesdays that goes out just as little spiritual uplifts that you can sign up for as well. In this community, we are passionate about spiritual transformation, and sometimes on the path of transformation we skip and dance, and other times not so much. Sometimes we stumble our way along it, and so no matter what your path looks like at this moment, know that we will walk with you, and you'll find love and support and understanding here. Our pulpit assistant today is Lana Mayhew. Yeah, we had a little change in order here. See if I can get it right. Our pulpit assistant is Lana Mayhew. Our vigil holder is Judy Nussmacher. And our interfaith candle lighting will be done by Linda Andriaco and Linza Smith. We do this interfaith candle lighting because as our founder Ernest Holmes did, we respect and honor and draw from the wisdom of the mystical traditions of all world religions. And you'll hear a little bit of that throughout the service, I'm sure. All that clapping and shucking and jiving made me catch my breath a little. That's a great song. Woo! At this point in the service, we always take a few minutes to greet each other, and that means in the main, hugging. So if you're not in the mood for a hug, that's absolutely fine. Please, we don't want to make you uncomfortable. You can stay in your seat, you can put out your hand for a handshake, or you can walk around and hug as many people as possible. Hugs are very, very good for our mental health, so we spend a lot of time hugging around here. We'll come back at the end of that little period of time and sing Thank You for This Day, Spirit. But right now, let's greet one another.
We light the first candle in honor of Buddhism. To be a monk is to have time to practice for your transformation and healing. And after that, to help with the transformation and healing of other people. We light the second candle in honor of Taoism. Knowing others is intelligence. Knowing yourself is true wisdom. Mastering others is strength. Mastering yourself is true power. We light the third candle in honor of Judaism. You must also face the real world and challenge its chutzpah over and over. To do that, you need supreme wholeness, as though you were Adam in the garden before his fall. And if you should say, but it is impossible, it is beyond the capacity of a creative being to be both something and nothing at once. You are right, it is impossible. That is precisely the advantage of the human being. That is why God created you, to join heaven and earth, nothingness and being, to make the impossible a reality. We light the fourth candle in honor of Christianity. The miracle of Jesus is not that he was a supreme human being, but that he was a mature and whole human being. He is a model of what it means to be fully human. He was called the Christ, an embodiment of the archetype of wholeness that is at work within each one of us and permeates the universe. The goal in the fulfillment of our lives and ultimately the collective life of humanity is to come to maturity, to the measure of the full stature of Christ as set out in Ephesians 4:12. We light the fifth candle in honor of Islam. Muslims constantly are reminded that engaging to create a more humane world is required. Salvation means not only to be saved from sinful acts, but also to be engaged actively in the improvement of the world. Becoming morally upright person is possible only through morally informed conduct. We light the sixth candle in honor of the Native American traditions. Treat the earth and all that dwell thereon with respect. Remain close to the Great Spirit. Show great respect for your fellow beings. Work together for the benefit of all mankind. Give assistance and kindness wherever needed. Do what you know to be right. Look after the well-being of mind and spirit. Dedicate a share of your efforts to the greater good. Be truthful and honest at all times. Take full responsibility for your actions. We light the final candle in honor of the Wiccan tradition. The goddess within has many names. She is the great goddess, the mother goddess, the star goddess. She is the ground of all existence. She is the pregnant void that exists in the blackness between the stars and beyond the subatomic particles. She is the quantum field of all potentiality, the mother of everything that has taken form in this universe. Reawakening her is the spiritual act which can save the physical world. And as we awaken the great goddess not only out there, but within each of us, this is how she regains her place and power in the world.
So the reading today, Created to be Happy, Purposeful, and Enthusiastic by Ernest Holmes. We all know as though something inside were forever telling us that we were created not only to live and work, but also to be happy, purposeful, and enthusiastic. So if you can just now take those words into that sacred place for a few minutes of contemplation. So how good it is to be happy, joyous, and free, as we know that Christ consciousness is within us and all around us. It is that divinity that is interwoven throughout a tapestry within our own soul. And so I know that same energy, that same power, that same presence is divinely orchestrating this service with Reverend Cece, as well as the band and the children's church, and every single person here. Every single person raises their own consciousness. And so I know that there is just continued peace and love and joy that we bring forth to our lives. And I say, thank you, thank you, thank you, God. I am so grateful to know that truth. And together we say, and so it is.
I love that reading about challenging the chutzpah of the world. That's sort of why we exist, to challenge the chutzpah of the world. And we do that in lots of ways, but mainly we do it in learning different ways to think about the world and ourselves and our place in it. And this month we've been talking about the tools of personal transformation, those tools that unleash us from our old ways of thinking and being, and the tools that allow us to step more fully into who we came here to be. Because as we become all that we came here to be, we change the world in our immediate vicinity. And what we came here to be, in short, is whole. We came here to be comfortable in our own skin. We came here to know that we belong here, we belong in this world, and we belong in eternity. We came here to be whole. Ernest Holmes says we came here to be happy, purposeful, and enthusiastic, and to belong to one another. I think belonging to one another is part of that wholeness that we seek, that we all seek. We've all forever simply wanted to feel like we belonged, right? Let me be really clear up front though. When I say being part of being whole is belonging to each other, I don't mean that if you're an introvert you have to change anything. Neither do the extroverts among you have to change anything. Belonging is a felt sense. Yet we have to allow ourselves to belong to others in order to feel whole. Peter Block, he's a mystic. He's a business consultant, but he's a mystic. And he defined belonging this way. I love it. He says, to belong is to be related to and part of something. It is the experience of being at home in the broadest sense of the phrase. It is the opposite of thinking that wherever I am, I would be better off somewhere else. And I love this last line. To belong is to know, even in the middle of the night, that I am among friends. I love that. And that is not an easy state to get to these days, that conviviality, that living with, that being surrounded by friends. I don't know about you, but much of my life I spent feeling like I should have been somewhere else. Like wherever I was, I didn't belong. I spent a lot of time wondering who were my people, because I sure wasn't finding them. You know, I just knew that the people that were around me were not my people. I wondered if anybody was my people. And I think many people feel that way, and maybe more people than ever before. But that sense of comfort and belonging and home is what we're here to create in our lives, I think. By working with our own consciousness and our own spiritual sense of belonging, we can arrive at home. But it requires other people. It requires community in order to feel like we belong. We can belong to ourselves, but there has to be a belonging to each other as well, I think. And the word belong has a whole lot of meanings. The first one is, to be related to and part of something. And the second meaning has to do with ownership, I think. When something belongs to me and I belong to it, then I am its co-owner and creator. When our lives belong to us, we understand that we, with this power and presence that we call God, that we're responsible for what it looks like. When our lives belong to us, we are creating and maintaining our own lives, right? When we understand that the world belongs to us, then we understand that we're responsible, along with this power and presence, this power for good in the universe that we call God. We're responsible for the creation and maintenance of what the world looks like. And finally, belonging is the longing to be. The longing to be, to fulfill our capacity for a deeper purpose in all that we do, to be present, to be authentic, to be whole, to walk in peace upon the earth. And that's where our individual personal transformation begins to move beyond just us. Individual transformation is necessary, there's no question about it. Because until we change, we don't know how to belong to each other. But we don't really transform the world until we look up and look around and start to see that there are others here, and begin to connect and enlarge our lives by joining in community with others. So I think being whole, belonging, ownership, and community all sort of come together. And those things require us to live differently than we have been living, which is probably why so many more people are alone now than ever have been before. I mean, feel isolated and alone. We live in this age of isolation. There are a whole bunch of studies that show that very few people actually have a confidant, someone they can be completely themselves with. They can bring their pain, they can bring their joy, they can bring their dirty laundry, they can bring it all, and it's still okay. Very few people actually have a confidant. that means we get stuck in our own heads with our own problems an awful lot of the time. And I don't know about you, but that's not a nice place for me to be. Not a nice place for me to be. I highly recommend the little book that just barely came out called The Book of Joy. It's by the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu, who are two of the most happy, joyful, purposeful, enthusiastic people ever. And in the book, the Dalai Lama reminds us that when we live in community, we're much less neurotic. Because we look around and see that everyone has a burden. Everyone has problems. And our own problems we get a little different perspective on them than when we're trapped alone in our own heads with them. Simply by realizing that I may walk with this burden, but Lenza has a burden, and Linda has a burden, and Lana has a burden, and every one of us carries a burden. We share the weight of those burdens with each other when we're in community with one another. It's also really interesting to realize that more people are connected by electronic means than ever before, but more people have fewer warm, live, huggable people in their lives. And that means that we can stay as we are. We don't have to change. Because, even if you type something out and hit the send button and then say, ooh, I wish I hadn't done that. And it results in the other person unfriending you or taking you off their Twitter feed. There's lots more electronic people where that one came from, right? But when that happens in real life, when we're face to face and heart to heart with each other, it's different. We have to be open enough to say, is what I am about to say what I really want to say? No matter how it lands on this person? Or is this other person so important to me that I'm just going to hit erase on what I was about to say and say something positive instead? It's a whole different kind of interaction. Systems, internet, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. A system can provide service, but only community can provide caring. And that's the difference. So part of our task in becoming whole is to enter into community, to be willing to enter into community with the people around us, to transform our isolation and our sometimes morbid self-interest into connectedness and caring for the other, which automatically becomes caring for us. When we enter in a community, communities are not transformed simply by individuals who have transformed themselves. Individual transformation is necessary, but there's a larger perspective that we open up to in community, and that is, what am I doing and how does it impinge on the whole, on all these people around me? When we start to enter into community, we can become transformed in new ways as well. Because if we're going to stay in community with people, we have to look at the possibilities of the relationship, not the problems of the relationship. There are problems in every relationship. Anybody here married? Anybody been married more than one time? It was until I became willing to look past the problems to the possibilities of the relationship that I could stay married. Because I would just say these problems are way too much for me. I don't want to be here. But the possibilities eluded me until I changed my perspective a little bit. When we look away from judgment, when we look away from judging someone to what the possibilities might be of the relationship, then we start to enter into community with one another. Here's one thing I know for sure, positive, certain. And that is that every person who's ever been in my life has brought me a gift, bar none, every single one. When I love them, the gift is apparent, right? And they love me, it's great. When they make me laugh, when they make me feel good in my own skin, the gift is obvious. But if they make my skin crawl, or they make my judgment rise up, I have to look harder for the gift, but it's there nonetheless. It's there. I remember, I had this fabulous opportunity of teaching 10 ministerial students, and it's brought me back to thinking about my early days when I first started ministerial school. And there were 2 in my class of 12 who drove me crazy. I think they drove everybody crazy. I only know what it felt like inside of me, and that is they drove me crazy. And the registrar drove us all crazy. She was passive-aggressive and forgetful and bossy as all get out, and she drove everybody nuts. And I was griping to the dean one day about the registrar. Reverend Kickbutt Bandy, we called her. Her real name was Reverend Alice Bandy, but the kickbutt was a term of endearment. So I was complaining to Reverend Kickbutt about the registrar, and she just looked at me and she said, "You know why she's here. She's part of the training." I went, "Oh." I guess I need to learn to be different with this woman. I had to learn to love her in spite of the fact that she drove me crazy. And I did love her eventually. Once I started looking at the possibilities of the relationship, instead of identifying every interaction as a problem. I mean, look, I wouldn't go out of my way to sit next to her at a party, but I did find ways to appreciate her. I did. I'm just being honest. I started to send her notes thanking her for all the work that she did. And I started noticing the little things, like making sure we had snacks on those interminable, we had this thing called spring camp where we go out for 10 days and just take classes, and they were really long days, and she always made sure we had food. And I learned how to let her passive-aggressive stuff just slide off and belong to her, not me. I learned how to buy coffee and bring it in and just make another pot, because she would only let us make one. She was a funny lady, what can I say? I learned how to keep better records, because I knew I would have to, and I did, have to produce all of my internship paperwork right before graduation, because she'd lost it all. I knew that, so I just sort of anticipated and filed it all, got it all ready to go and sent it in, and all was good. I learned to look, instead of what she wasn't doing, at what she was doing. I learned to look for glimpses of the divine in her, and she was indeed part of the training. She was. And she taught me a whole bunch. She taught me so much. We got along fabulously there at the end, and when I learned to bring her gifts out from the margins to the center and push her shortcomings to the margins instead of leaving them in the center, my relationship with her changed. And this is true everywhere in life. What do we teach? We experience what we believe we're going to experience. So, if we believe in problems, guess what we experience? Problems. If we believe people are a certain way, that's how we experience them, even if they change. I don't know whether you've noticed this, but someone can actually be different, and we're still holding them in the same mold we've always held them in. If we believe in possibilities, on the other hand, what we experience is infinite possibility. If we believe in the possibilities of a relationship, if we believe that everyone has gifts, we look for the gifts instead of the problems. There is great power in what I'm talking about right here. Enormous power in the small elements of being with each other in community. We create a wider sense of belonging. We begin to value our interdependence, as well as our individuality and our independence. We learn to extend hospitality and affection to each other, rather than judgment and hostility and I don't want to be with you to each other. And I have to tell you that what I've discovered is that this being together sustains my individual transformation. It gives me ripe grounds for working on myself, because that's the only place we can work, right? But it also sustains the transformation of our community and begins to sustain the transformation of that world we're trying to create. Because we begin by asking, how are we going to be together? Which of course necessitates, how am I going to be when I'm in this relationship? And then how are we going to be together is, is how am I going to see the God in this person, and how am I going to let this person see the God in me? Am I going to do everything I can to hide my little light? Or am I going to just open up and let it shine? Shine out of me as love and kindness and compassion and hospitality. Then we get to ask, what are the conversations I really want to have here? And how can I start having them? I know we're all really, really busy, but I keep asking myself the question, am I busy doing things that create a better life and a better world? Or am I busy doing things that just take up time? Am I making time for my personal transformation, which includes my transformation through community? Because it's entering into our own transformation that makes us purposeful, happy, and enthusiastic. It's entering into our own transformation that leads us to wholeness. Part of that transformation is being conscious about how we are in community with other people. What would change in your life if you joined like a service team or started or joined a small group? What would change? You'd spend an hour or two a week doing something that lets this community stay around, but more importantly, you'd spend an hour or two a week in community with some really amazing people that you may not know. People that might be sitting right next to you and you don't know how amazing they are. You'd spend a couple of hours a month in face-to-face relationship. You'd have all sorts of opportunities to see the gift in each one. You'd have all sorts of opportunities to look at yourself, because sometimes you don't recognize the gift. To grow and to stretch all along all the edges of your own being. You'd have the opportunity to see, as Ian McLaren said, everyone is fighting a hard battle. And so how do you show up for that? How do you show up with kindness instead of, my battle's harder than yours? Which is, kind of what we do sometimes. Do you have the opportunity to be conscious about deciding how you want to be in community, and thus how we are in community with the world? We exist as a place, this center exists as a place for us to learn how we wish to be in the world. How to be courageous and kind and welcoming and accepting and honest and joyful and strong and imaginative and loving. Everything that happens here exists for that reason. Whether it's our classes, whether it's, our service teams, whether it's the places we learn the principles that help us change our own way of thinking and looking at the world, whether it's serving here each other in this community or out there in the larger world, where we learn from our kids how to be more joyful. Man, you want a lesson, they'll teach you. They will teach you. We are all learning to be happy and purposeful and enthusiastic and true to ourselves, to be all that we came here to be whole. To be whole, to be comfortable in our own skins, no matter what. To learn from the inside out. To start the conversations we want to have in the world. So take advantage of the opportunities that are here for you to be with other people, to serve with other people, to, come on the first Saturday in November and give the grounds a final cleanup with some really terrific people. Sign up on the welcome team or the hugs team or the community awareness team or the cafe team or the youth church. If there's something you want to see happening here, let's talk. Let's talk about it. Because we can make things happen that will serve you, but we only do it if we know about them, right? So if you have a great idea for something that needs to be going on here, talk to me, please. If there's a small group you want to create, talk to me, please. We have curricula, we have structure, we have someone who can help you invite people to your group, all that kind of stuff. Get involved in your own transformation and get involved in the transformation of this community so that this community can transform together. And when enough of us are doing that, we will transform the Miami Valley and beyond. We've been here 70 years, growing towards a moment where we step fully out and let our light shine completely and brilliantly, so that people see that what we're really passionate about is becoming love, kindness, compassion, joy. All of those things I mentioned before, that's what we really are about. Tomorrow is Global Oneness Day. A day to think about how we can come together in our world in order to heal the suffering of people and animals, the suffering of the planet, so that how do we come together to create that world that works for everyone? And it comes from a recognition that we are all one, that we're inextricably woven together. And it begins right here, between you and me, between you and the person sitting next to you, between the people in this room. And it spreads outward as we decide that we are going to be happy, purposeful, enthusiastic, and whole together. So let's begin. And let's begin right now in consciousness together as we breathe, knowing that there is only one breath. And as we breathe again, knowing that there is only one life. And as we breathe again, knowing there is only one mind. That breath, that life, that mind is that power for good in the universe that we call God. That breath, that power, that mind is what has spoken into being out of its own self, out of its own beingness, all that exists. It is that which maintains everything from the furthest galaxy of the universe to the orbits of electrons around their nucleus. It is the glue that holds everything together, and it is what is held together. It is all existence. And it is as personal as that still small voice within each one of us that says, I am. This power and presence is everywhere, in every moment of time. And it is right where each one of us is. We are its manifestation. We are its heart and hands and voice. We are the place it shows up in the world. And so I know for each one of us that we show up today as wholeness. We show up today as love. We show up today as compassion and joy. We show up today as courage and strength. We show up today with that sense of being home, of belonging right where we are, with the people surrounding us. And as we go to bed this evening, we know once again, we belong, even asleep, even in the middle of the night. We are among friends. Because that's who we are in the world. We are a friend. We are love. We are openness. We are authenticity. We are purpose, power, happiness, joy. We are all that. And how grateful I am simply to know that. And how grateful I am to be able to see that this community is moving into a larger way of being. That every person in it is saying yes to all that he or she came here to be. And as a community, we are saying yes to all that we came here to be. So I simply say thank you. I say thank you to that power that is, that power for good that I call God. Thank you for this community. Thank you for this opportunity to celebrate life together. Thank you for this life, for all of its understanding and joy, for all of its bumpy paths, for all of the people that I meet on this path, for every single moment of it. Thank you, God. I release these words, knowing that that same power has already said yes, as it always does. Yes, my beloved, it is done unto you as you believe. Yes. And knowing it is so, we say together, and so it is.
I am just a thread, a simple thread in this glorious web of life. We are all just drops within a stream flowing towards an ocean of light. We may forget where we come from. We may forget where we're going to. I might not see that you're a reflection of me as much as I'm a reflection of you. I am just a seed, a blessed seed with eternity unfolding in me. And I pray that as I grow, I will reveal the love that illuminates my soul. When I remember where I come from, when I remember where I'm going to, then I will see that you're a reflection of me as much as I'm a reflection of you. This is my simple prayer. May I become a reflection of the infinite one. This is my simple prayer. May I become a reflection of the infinite one. This is my simple prayer. May I become a reflection of the infinite one. This is my simple prayer. May I become a reflection of the infinite one.
Amen. We now have an opportunity to give in support of the work of this community, because everything you give makes it possible for us to be here on Sunday, to offer the classes and the youth church and the spaces for meditation and workshops, and to create a community where we are all growing together. So we invite you to pause and take a breath and think about what you receive here, and then expand it. And think about all the gifts in your life. Count your blessings for a moment and just let yourself be filled with gratitude. Because we are so blessed, each one of us. Yes, we have a burden to carry, but oh, we are so blessed. And gratitude is that attitude that says to the universe, I love my life and I will accept more. And as you prepare to give, as the basket passes through your hands, whether you are actually putting it in an envelope or you give by electronic withdrawal, as I do, simply speak a word of blessing for our abundance as a community. And let's affirm, my heart is open.
My heart is open.
I give from my open heart.
I give from my open heart.
I know that as I give, I am given to.
I know that as I give, I am given to.
And I am grateful.
And I am grateful.
And so it is.
So it is.
I smell food. That must mean it's Consciousness Cafe time. Please join us in the cafe for a bite to eat and some more fellowship right after the service. It's that, what is it, the second door on your left as you go down the hallway. Well, the first one's locked, it's the old bookstore. So the second one, the one that's open, there you go. A couple of quick announcements to let you know about. This coming Saturday, October 29th, we will offer a financial planning workshop with Tom Cooper. This is about learning to realistically set plans for your financial goals using spiritual tools. You can sign up in the office. There's a free book that you'll get to read to prepare for that workshop. It's a wonderful book, and there are just a couple spots left, so sign up today. The following Saturday, November 5, will be the last grounds beautification day of the year. So join the team at 9 o'clock for a couple hours of pulling weeds, cutting back plants, and community with some really great people. If you can spare an hour or two there, it would be most appreciated. I just want to tell you a couple things that aren't on the back of your bulletin, and that is we have two amazing guest speakers coming up in November. November 6th is Reverend Darrell Jones. Many of you will remember him. And then on November 20th, Reverend Mark Anthony Lord, who is one of he's one of the truly awesome ministers in our movement and a great mentor of mine. I love him. So don't miss it. Don't miss any Sunday in November, okay? But I wanted to let you know about those two because I think you'll really enjoy them both. If you look at the back page of your bulletin insert under calendar, you can see everything that's happening around here. And there's more details about all of our special events, including the financial planning workshop, the yard team, the holiday decorating party, and more. So take a look there for more information. And if you would like prayer after the service for anything at all, whether it is one of those bumpy places in the road, or you just want more of all the good that's already coming your way, our prayer practitioners, our professional prayer practitioners would love to pray with you. Just look for the people in the white or teal prayer stoles and just ask them for prayer. And they have studied and practiced and prayed for many years and have learned how to see the spiritual truth for you even when you cannot. And their gift to you on Sunday is a 1-minute miracle of prayer. You can also put a written prayer request on a prayer card and drop it in the prayer box, which is back there on the table to your right, and we'll pick it up after service and pray for you. You can call our prayer line, or you can go to our website, which is www.cslgd.org, and make an electronic request for prayer. We believe that prayer works to change our minds and our lives, and so that is a gift to you in all of these ways. So I just want to say thanks to everybody who made today's service possible. Our ushers and greeters, our welcome team, our practitioners, the band. Yes! Woo-hoo! This amazing Higher Mind band. The people at Consciousness Cafe, and all of you, most especially, because if you weren't here, we wouldn't be either. So let's stand for our closing affirmation and our closing song, which is We Are One. So repeat after me. I live life with enthusiasm and purpose.
I live life with enthusiasm and purpose.
I am happy.
I am happy.
I am whole.
I am whole.
I love my life.
I love my life.
And the people in it.
And the people in it.
And so it is.
And so it is.
Have a wonderful week, everybody.